Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. We are here. We're back. We got playoff series to discuss. We've got a firing in the NHL to discuss, but we will start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, so let's talk about Major League Baseball and the players. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that I don't know. I no longer feel bad about the lousy Fanatics uniforms because once I found out that the players were getting a lot of money from Fanatics for getting this deal, so in other words, they're like in partnership with them, they get what they get. All you had to do was poll fans and find out what they thought of Fanatics and their clothing, and you would soon find out that most are not happy. And now you went in and really the most sacred thing in baseball are the uniforms, and they've been atrocious. And so now I don't care. I hope they all split their seams. I hope there's more bad things to come because honestly, Major League Baseball is just getting around to making a comment. Like it's been going on since spring training. Like how long are you going to take?
Well, I mean, it's pretty bad when you just outwardly see the quality or lack thereof of the uniform. Yeah. Like, I mean, I was commenting on the Yankees road grays and how it looks like the letters have been ironed on like you used to iron on like things on T-shirts back in the 70s, that type of stuff. It looks really chintzy and cheesy and bad. But then, what was it, last week? He had the guy sliding in at home plate and his entire pants just busted. I mean,
it happens again.
It's pathetic. And you're right. It's like last summer, I wanted to buy a Yankees hoodie, okay? And I bought a Yankees hoodie from Fanatics because it was the only place where you could buy it. I got it in the mail about a week later, and it was a piece of shit. And I said, okay, I'm sending this back. And I got my money back pretty quickly. But their return situation is so efficient because so many people are probably returning this stuff. That's why.
Yeah, so their whole thing is fast delivery.
That's fast delivery and low quality. It's like I made the joke a couple months ago when we were talking about this last. I said I've gotten better quality stuff from those, and I don't order from them anymore because I don't want to pay any money to Chinese sweatshops. But when you have these websites a few years ago that you can get a jersey for $12 and then you get one and it's it's like it's okay quality. And then you see what Fanatics is putting out and they're probably getting from the same sweatshop.
They might be. All right, let's get started.
Okay. Hello, excuse me. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, April 29th, 2024.
I'm Pete Tessier in morbid Winnipeg.
Yeah, dude, you're like it's 82 degrees here and you're all piled up with stuff. I'm Russ Cullen.
It's kind of cool.
And I'm Michael Agello, and I'm parched. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Sorry, I was just sticking my hand underneath my because my hand is cold. Okay, we'll start with the breaking news and then get into the playoff series. And Peter and myself will be, Russ will be ebullient, and Peter and I will be the negatives of the show. The Seattle Kraken have dismissed Dave Hackstall as their head coach after 3 seasons. Hackstall had a record, I'm looking this up on Wikipedia, by the way, 107, 112, and 27 as head coach of the Kraken for their first 3 seasons. He did get them to the playoffs. They did beat the reigning Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche in the first round before losing to – did they lose to Vegas or did they lose to Dallas? I think they lost to Dallas. Yeah. They lost to Dallas, yeah. This year they didn't make the playoffs, finished 6th in the Pacific. A little bit of a surprise, but not really. I mean, now we have 3 teams confirmed without head coaches. I think it's going to go up more, but right now it's Ottawa, San Jose, and Seattle. And probably you're going to see teams like New Jersey, Columbus, possibly LA, possibly St. Louis. So there could be a significant changeover in head coaches this offseason. But let's get to Hextall, Russ, because you saw him in Philadelphia for a few years. Good college coach. Okay. NHL coach. He was an assistant in Toronto for a couple years. Goes to Seattle. And like you said, it probably wasn't like a long-term hire.
No, I mean, he's a good starter coach, and I'm not saying that to be mean. He gets a culture going. He gets guys playing hard, responsible hockey. There's too many passes to try and get into the offensive zone. This year was a terrible year for Matty Benier, so that was not good for Dave Hackstall. Those kinds of things were pointing that way. But the biggest thing that we have to look at is, and even though we can't imagine Rod Brind'Amour ever leaving his job, just remember how good of friends he is with Ron Francis.
Yeah, I mean okay.
That's a factor.
It is a factor, but I don't know this for sure. But Peter, there was a lot of talk around Buffalo when they fired Granato that Kevin Adams, who is also really good friends with Rod Brind'Amour, that Brind'Amour would have been his first choice. Now, there's no way to know whether he called him because that would be tampering, but if he could give him a heads up that I'm staying in Carolina, and then he moved on to plan B, which was Lindy Ruff, that strikes me as being realistic. That, could you give me a heads up if you're gonna stay in Carolina, then I'm gonna move on. If you're not, then I'll wait around for you if you're interested. I mean, I get that. Maybe this is the same situation with Seattle. I mean, Seattle, they could wait around a couple months and just see if Brind'Amour shakes loose.
Yeah, I think the only reason Brind'Amour would shake loose is if something cataclysmic happens in the next round. Like something really weird is going to go. Do I think Carolina is going to have to depart from Brind'Amour? Yes. I just don't think it's likely it happens now. It'll be either during next season or the year out, or off season, depending on what happens, right? Like, I get the sense that at some point ownership in Carolina is going to say, we've been a bridesmaid too long, and it's time to get back to winning. But easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean, it's also on the other side too, in the sense that Brind'Amour, being one of the best coaches in this league, has been underpaid by Tom Dundon over the last few years. I think he's making $2 million, whereas like big coaches, the Babcocks and the he was making 6.5, and Sullivan's making, I think, over 5, and the big name coaches are making that kind of money. Whereas Brind'Amour, Dundon is notoriously chintzy when it comes to something other than, even with players. I think in certain circumstances he's been sort of fiscally responsible, and I don't use that in a positive light. It may be a time where Brind'Amour says, and I know supposedly he took less so he could get his assistant coaches taken care of, and that's laudable. Yeah. But at a certain point, he's going to want to make money, and it could be in Seattle, and it could be other places, because there are other coaching jobs that might shake loose over the next little while. So I'll give you another name, Russ, and I know he played with Francis for a long time. And I know that his name has popped up in speculation regarding Toronto if Sheldon Keefe gets fired, and that's Joel Quenneville. Joel Quenneville and Ron Francis were teammates for a long time in Hartford. Could Quenneville prefer something off the beaten path like Seattle rather than like a crucible of media in Toronto? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't think that market would like Joel Quenneville. I think that's
which one?
Seattle. People of Seattle. I don't think that's a good fit.
God, I hate doing this. Here's something I saw yesterday when this Quenneville's name popped up. I'm not even going to give the old codgy, cantankerous, lying fool who was on national TV for years in Canada the credit of saying his name, but he'd make stuff up and his fellow panelists would laugh at him. And somehow he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm not going to give him the credit of saying his name, but he said that Quenneville and Bowman did the right thing in the whole case with why am I forgetting his name?
Kyle Beach.
Blackhawk, yeah, Kyle Beach, and forwarded up the food chain. I don't ever recall seeing that in the independent report.
No.
And if they did, why did they get canned? So again, that's why I won't even say the guy's name, because he's such a disrespectful, arrogant prick and stuff that, like, so I'm with Russ. Like, there's no way that fan base accepts it. And frankly, if that's the narrative that's starting to be to get spun, I can see this guy doing it just because he'd like to do it, to sort of rechange the narrative, because that's the first I heard of that.
Well, I know that Quenneville has started to do media. He did Spit and Chicklets, and
let's go down the road.
I was gonna, because that tweet that was sent out a little today, I just have to address it because
let's do it.
But I'll do it when we talk about that series. But he started doing, like, he did Spit and Chicklets. He did a couple other things. There is a general sense that he's sort of putting himself out there at the behest that the NHL maybe have given him a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that it was okay to start doing that, sort of laying the groundwork for him potentially being available for jobs. I'm not going to say the same thing that whoever this, that particular panelist said is right. I do know that, this was a organizational screw up from the top on down, from John McDonough, from Stan Bowman, from Quenneville. But there are degrees. There are degrees of the culpability of what happened. Did they bear responsibility? Should they have been punished for what they did? Yes. Does that mean, like, they should probably be excised from the NHL for the remainder of their careers? That's up to other NHL teams and the commissioner to determine. I do know that if Quenneville does take, if Quenneville is offered the Toronto job and he takes it, what do you think the first 5 questions in that introductory press conference will be, Peter? It'll be all about Chicago. Just like everything when Babcock took the job in Columbus, I'm sure the first couple questions were about Mitch Marner and Shane.
That may be the only way you can get Marner out of town is by hiring Quenneville in Toronto.
Well, all right. Well,
I'm just saying he's not his type of player, Mike.
Well, yes. But Trevor Daley wasn't his type of player. He's very determinative on the type of players that he likes. But Russ, Patrick Kane is a Marner type player. Okay,
but Patrick Kane will actually do more things.
I know.
Not anymore. He's a little older and he's got the bad hip, right?
But they're not exactly
doing more things on the ice. I'll say
they're not exactly going to go into the corners and be Cam Neely. That's not their role. I was just saying to somebody in the chat, it's like, Marner, about Marner in Toronto, and like I wanted to finish on with Hextall.
Right, I'm going to say it like this. This could be wrong, and again, I'm going to go back to the Nylander on the bench thing, because I thought Nylander had the right.
No, hold on.
Hold on.
No, we'll get to that, but I just want to finish on Hextall, and then we'll get into the playoffs. Right. But no, in terms of who Seattle's going to hire. Could Berube be in the mix?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay,
and to that point, Mike, I think he could be. And I think the other thing that you have to remember is, if your ears to the ground are hearing things and you're considering it, like, they could have fired Hextall for a little bit. Maybe there's someone out there they want, and they realize if we don't do it now, we've lost that cycle. Maybe it is Berube.
Yeah, they could be in contact with Berube as we speak. Yeah,
exactly. And I'd like that. I like what you're doing. Boom. Okay, we got to get rid of Hextall. Yeah,
we got to jump and move now before other teams. More than likely, like San Jose is gonna hire a teaching coach.
Right.
Ottawa is probably gonna teach somebody gonna hire somebody like Ruff or Berube that will get them in the playoffs, or try to get them in the playoffs immediately. Somebody who will put the irons to the fire. All right. The way I phrased it in X-Blog.
I give you who I think Ottawa will be interested in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Guy Boucher.
He was there before.
I know. Well, okay. Lindy Ruff was in Buffalo before.
It's a little different.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's suspicion that not only was Kevin Adams really heated for Lindy Ruff, but that the owner was heated for Lindy Ruff. I don't know about. I mean, Guy Boucher is the right type of coach, but honestly, Russ, what has happened with him and what he is responsible with for in Toronto, meaning the power play. It's not.
I mean, that's not going to stop somebody from hiring him as a head coach. He took that job to stay visible, and he's visible right now.
Yeah, in a negative sense, but anyway. Okay, so the way I phrased it in X blog today was, which of the teams that are down in the series 3-1, and there are I think 5 of them. Let's see. The Rangers swept. One series is 6 of them are 3-1. Which of the teams that are down 3-1 have the best chance to come back and win? I look at all 6 of the series, and I think all the ones that are trailing 3-1 are toast. I don't see anybody having a chance of coming back from 3-1. But I'll leave that up to you. But I mean, so right now, Boston is up 3-1 on Toronto. Florida's up 3-1 on Tampa. Carolina's up 3-1 on the Islanders. The Rangers have swept the Capitals. In the West, Winnipeg is down 3-1 to Colorado. Dallas is down 2-1 to Vegas. Edmonton is up 3-1 on LA, and Vancouver, surprisingly, Peter, is up 3-1 on Nashville. With their third string goalie in goal, and that unbelievable comeback late in regulation to tie the game and then win it in overtime. First, the overall question: which one of those 6 teams do you think has the best chance to come back from a 3-1 deficit?
Nashville.
Okay,
Nashville, because Vancouver, not because of the way they won the game, they can't generate offense. Right. They got lucky, but they're like Nashville has just clamped them down, and a bad bounce, it happens. But I don't think Nashville had all the bad luck to lose the game. I don't know if Vancouver if that's a switch, but Nashville's played better than them all series.
Right.
They're stopping shots. They're keeping a high-powered offense down, and you know what? Good on Vancouver. I'm happy for them, but Nashville really looks like the better team.
Russ?
I don't think any of them will, but I do think Nashville has the best chance, like Pete said. They do know how to play it. Saros has been good. Really, the Canucks are showing me something, though. They are. Now they used to, some people think that Silovs was going to be their better goalie than DeSmith anyhow, but they had to use DeSmith because he was the backup. We'll see. I mean, he gave up 3 also, so I'm not sure that's really the case. But
have we heard anything on the status of DeSmith, of what exactly it is, or
I believe he'll play next game.
Okay.
It was just something I think. I bet you if it was 2-1 Nashville going into that game, he played.
Right.
I bet you that was it. There was a
photo
of him.
Game was like one that they could rest on.
Right.
Yeah.
And they won it.
And they won it. And hey, what did I say on Friday about Besser? And
I agree with you. I said he's.
No, I know you. I was just saying, like he did it right. Like
you were right. He has done it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. The minute he woke up, it perked up the whole team.
Yep, 100%, Russ. 100%.
So you were right. Yeah.
Now the other series in the Pacific is going as expected. I caught the last part of the second and all of the third of Edmonton, LA, and ended up being a 1-0 game, it's weird. Like they were talking about this on the 32 Thoughts podcast this morning. LA wins a wide open offensive contest 5-4 in overtime, and then Edmonton wins a strapped down 1-0 game in
12 shots on net
with 12 shots on goal. So, is it proof that Edmonton can win in the playoffs? Not necessarily. I mean, they got a power play goal, and Skinner played really well. But honestly, in that third period, when LA had a bunch of shots, they had one really good scoring opportunity. I think it was Trevor Moore. Other than that, it was I think it was Arvidsson or Fiala that had a close chance on a power play. And they made a big deal of it on the broadcast. It was a clear shot. I mean, there was no screen, and Skinner made a decent glove save. But it really wasn't like they were clogging the front of the net and making it difficult for Skinner. LA is not that good of a team. Their goaltending, I mean, they had to go to David Rittich after 3 games, Peter. So that's a commentary on, I mean, Edmonton lucked out big time in the fact that they didn't get Vegas. And now, if you look at it, the pathway is there for them to get to the conference final, because if Nashville, if Vancouver beats Nashville, then Edmonton's going to get a wounded Canucks team in the second round, and then they're going to get either Dallas or Vegas going through each other, and then Colorado to get to them. So I mean, it's laid out right. The NHL's loving this.
Oh yeah, look. If Edmonton gets to the final, like the Stanley Cup final, and if Edmonton wins, and I just had a little vomit come up in the back of my throat there.
They're not going.
They should have an asterisk side, because no one's ever had an easier path going forward than the Oilers will to get there.
Yeah.
Because whatever comes out against them in the West, if they get that far, is going to be a mangled, beat up shell of a hockey team.
Right.
And that could happen in the East too. Like a Florida-New York final could just be absolute chaos. Like, right. So I'm not picking on the West saying it's harder.
Here's what I would say. I would call LA the gang that couldn't shoot straight. There was a movie like that once.
Mm-hmm.
They had 22 missed shots. So they played this game like they were just going to lock everything down and hope for a mistake. But they missed 22 shots. They had 17 blocks. They had 44 hits. Okay, but Edmonton overcame that. Why did they play that way? Because David Rittich is in net, and they know if they played a wide open game, he'd give up 4 goals. So they're done. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, is it possible LA goes to Edmonton? Yeah, it's very possible that all these teams that are down 3-1 extend the series, go to 6 games. Yeah, they could, but I don't think that in that series that LA has any kind of reasonable chance of climbing back into it and winning in 7 games. They just don't. They don't have the firepower, and they really, they think they're making it physically tough on Edmonton. I saw Doughty hit Hyman. Kane is stirring it up and being the pain in the ass that he always is on and off the ice.
Although his video making fun of Mark Spector was fantastic, because for players that want to say they don't pay attention to anything or don't read anything, Kane put all that to rest.
Oh, yeah, please. No, I don't watch media at all. Well, it uses the same terminology that Spector did.
That was very good.
But you see, I don't want Mark Spector doesn't need me to defend him. I know from Peter knows from personal experience, and I know from personal experience being in Buffalo when he was in Buffalo. Evander Kane is a distractive force on every team. Maybe that team has enough leadership and whatever that they can ignore that in favor of him as his, as a good hockey player, but he is a pain in the ass. And he was a disruptive force in the Sabres, and he was a disruptive force with the Jets. And he was a disruptive force with the San Jose Sharks. So, geez, it's really going out on a limb to say he's a disruptive force.
Spec's not wrong, but I still like what Kane did.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so moving to the Central, Dallas made got off the mat in Vegas, winning 2-1. Wyatt Johnston, who we've said for a couple of years, this is
still in the pandemic draft. Yeah,
with a lot of talent. He scores in overtime. I mean, if they even it up 2-2, and it's game 4 tonight, then we have a brand new series. If Vegas goes up 3-1, then I think they're, obviously it's not a bold statement to say they're in control. But I thought this was going to be one of the more entertaining series because they're so, evenly matched, even though Vegas snuck in as the 8th seed. But I want to get to Winnipeg, Colorado, Peter, because I mean,
well, there's a goalie who's a Vezina finalist who doesn't look like one, but it's not entirely his fault. After last game, I think something has come out. And you heard Scheifele saying, well, we didn't make adjustments all game. And you heard Bonus say, they were good on the power play. They, had chances and kind of put it back on the players a little bit. I can't remember his exact quote. That's a worrisome disconnect because they look the exact same they did against Vegas last year. And that is something that should be concerning to upper management. But more importantly, what are the coaching decisions happening right now? And it's actually being asked by the media in Winnipeg now. Like they're talking about these baffling decisions. You've got a guy who scored 40 points, including 19 goals, and Cole Perfetti, who hasn't played a game this series. But
right.
You bring up an AHLer. You traded for Miller, but you'll play Stanley, who was coughing things. Stanley was the cause of 2 goals last game. Like, no one really understands why these decisions are being made. They're not really being explained very well. And then the players are questioning certain things. Like, it's an implosion again. So are we going to get a bonus rant after Tuesday when they're finally out of their misery and he's going to sort of throw the players under the bus again like he did last season? Mm-hmm. I don't know. But what's really clear is Kevin Cheveldayoff looked at his roster and said, I need to fill holes. How he filled them was the wrong way. He didn't fill them with players who are going to have to compete against this eventual postseason competition. He filled them because he wanted a face-off guy, and he filled them because we don't score enough goals, so I got Toffoli. Toffoli has been useless in the postseason. He's not a
playoff guy.
Nice guy.
He scored a goal. He scored a goal in Game 3, I believe.
Yeah. But he's been useless.
Mm-hmm.
No. Monahan hasn't moved the needle. He can't skate. And so, again...
But it's not like Monahan was a great player before he got there. So
he wasn't. He wasn't. And so the issue then becomes, what were you trying to fix? Because you knew if you had to go up against Edmonton, Vegas, Colorado, or Dallas, 4 teams, half the division, you were going to have to be faster.
Right.
And they didn't get anyone. And now it's coming home to roost.
Well, I mean, the one that's the most puzzling is you're calling up Axel Jonsson-Falaby instead of playing Perfetti. So, I mean, is it the fact that Perfetti is a liability defensively, or he just doesn't trust the young kid in a playoff?
Axel Jansson's got a lot of speed. Perfetti's not slow, but he's not as fast as him. So I think he's just trying to speed up the lineup. I'll say this. We know no matter what goes on, Chevy is safe. So it's not even worth it to talk about him possibly getting fired. Forget that. But I don't think you could let the players fire Bonus again. Like, just fire another coach. There is something going on with these players. They got rid of some of them because there was something going on. I know there's tweets out there that everybody's like, well, look, we got a new coach. And, well, not we, but they got a new coach. And it was on the players last time. Now it's on the coach. I don't think so. I think it's still on the players. But I can't tell you exactly what's wrong. But I do think they need to kind of get rid of some of the guys like the Pionks. There's a reason the Rangers didn't stick with him for a while. Not because he can't play the game, but because you don't need him in playoff hockey. And some of these guys are good regular season performers like Toffoli, but they're not good playoff performers. And I think they need to concentrate on, like other teams, hey, we've got to win the regular season, but we've got to be ready for playoff hockey. And they're not ready for playoff hockey.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I got to run.
See you, Pete.
You want to see everyone? Take care.
Thanks.
They're just not.
No, they're not. And I mean, I don't think they can fire. I don't think they can fire Bonus. It's only been 2 years with Bonus, I believe. So, I mean, although the distractions of the season with him, I mean, whatever health situation it was, I think it was with his wife, and then with himself later in the season.
Right.
that might be a situation where they're even though it's the team and the way the team is playing, maybe will be a factor in Cheveldayoff saying, okay, we need somebody younger, we need somebody healthier. I mean, who knows? But they just have to. I mean, it's easier to fire a coach than to trade a bunch of players. But
but you know what? Sometimes you have to get to the root of the problem, and I still think they do.
It might be a situation here though where it'll be easier to trade players with the cap going up. There'll be some more flexibility.
Yeah.
And guys like Ehlers and a few. I mean, I know that they demoted Ehlers from the second to the third line.
You should put Ehlers on the market. That's my feeling. That's been my feeling. All right. I just want to say one thing about the Rangers series, and then we can get to that other subject. Alex Ovechkin had no playoff points. There's no way to disguise this, wrap it in a bow, or anything. It was just ugly. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens with him next season, but it hurt the team. The team is also in a weird changeover because they do have some really good young players. You saw Hendrik Lapierre really rise to the occasion, but you also see how banged up TJ Oshie is. So that's another team that sort of has to figure it out and figure out how quickly they want to let some of these younger players make that transition and take over the team.
There's a lot of speculation that Oshie's going to retire, or he's got a year left in the contract, so that he's not going to play in the final year of his deal. That would give them an amazing amount of cap flexibility with both Backstrom and him.
He might do that for the franchise. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He really is. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as for their season, they have to look upon it as a success because they made the playoffs when I don't think they expected to. But their situation is you've got a number one goaltender or a guy who is being paid as a number one goaltender who's the backup in Kemper.
Yeah, that's a buyout waiting to happen.
That's either a buyout or you find some team that is looking to. Maybe Seattle or maybe Utah, and there's they got cap space and whatever. Maybe LA. I mean, he did win a Stanley Cup, but it's just not working in Washington. Like I said, my stance on Ovechkin. I mean, he had a terrible first half. He had a good second half. He, as much as anybody, was responsible for getting them in the playoffs. He didn't play well in the playoffs. I think that's more of a product of the Rangers just being a better team. But
giving up on some plays, Mike. Though, like when he was on the power play, he did not want to play. Like there was a shot and there was a block that Barker Goudreau, and he did not want to fight Barker Goudreau for that puck. So Rangers got a shorthanded goal. Like there's little things like that showed that. That's the age thing. So we'll see. We saw that with Messier and Eric Lindros.
Yeah.
In 97.
Like I said, Miguel Cabrera. That's my comparable. He's a compiler at this point. Is there room for him to be a compiler on a rebuilding team? Probably, but let's just say Spencer Carberry is going to have to deal with Alex Ovechkin in terms of him being a presence on that roster because Ted Leonsis will not allow, he's not going to be traded unless he wants to be. He's not going to go anywhere. He's going to finish his career in Washington. He's going to be the all-time career goal leader. It's a fait accompli unless he gets injured.
Right, which could happen. I mean, that's how I would say at that age.
But it's a fait accompli.
All right.
Okay, so other series in the Metro, Carolina and the Islanders. Carolina was up 3-0. The Islanders spoiled my usage of this, which has now officially been laminated, folks. So it's here forever. They won Game 4, so they stay alive. But I don't think anybody thinks that the Islanders are back in this series, Russ.
No, I mean, look. They won that game in gutsy fashion. I give them credit. That's the one game where you say, okay, they had some intestinal fortitude. They really rose to the occasion. They're probably losing their next game. So, yeah.
Right. Not to pay short shrift to that series, but it's just not really an exciting.
It's boring. It has been boring on both sides. It's the one I've watched the least of, too.
Yeah. Now, I have to give Tampa a lot of credit because they did show a lot of heart in Game 4 against Florida. They're big players. Hedman had 3 assists. Hagel had 2 goals and an assist. Kucherov and Point and Cirelli and Stamkos.
Great in that series, by the way.
And that may, that might have been, Stamkos's coup de grace. Like, I'm going to go out on home ice, show you what I am. And then if they lose in 5 games, his last game is in Florida. I mean, I know that everybody's saying, well, I just can't imagine, Stamkos playing in another jersey. I can. I really can. If they're going to screw him and not pay him the respect that he deserves of being the best player in that team, in that franchise's history, and say, okay, we expect you to take $3 million.
Yeah, how did Mark Messier become a New York Ranger? Like, come on.
If I'm him, I tell them to go F themselves. He took a hometown discount in 2016 when he was 26 years old and took $8.5 million, and everybody just shook their head and said, no, he wanted to stay there. He won Stanley Cups there.
Yep.
He's had a great career, but it's about respect. It's about
at this point it is. Look, it wouldn't shock me if they tied the series up, but they're not winning it. They don't have enough to get over the mountaintop, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, they could. Do they have? I mean, I picked them in 7.
Right. I mean, they have the kind of players that we can't be shocked if they tie up the series.
No,
they just don't think they can win it.
Yeah, they just don't have. I mean, they have championship pedigree. They just don't have enough championship pedigree. Right. It's that level of 5 or 6 players that they've had to dispatch due to age or cap or whatever. It's a miracle Sergachev came back as quickly.
It really is.
But anyway, so okay, so let's get to it. And yes, there you go, Russ. And my headline on Hockey Buzz should say it all. It was, did you expect anything different? And I didn't. And that's why I took the Bruins. Now, everything that's going on now, the knives are out and the impending doom of Shanahan, Keefe and Marner and this. I mean, I'm not going to go into that stuff until they're done. But are they done? Yes. They're not winning this series. And if you needed evidence of them not winning this series, Russ, it was the fact that they came out in completely, and I don't use this word lightly, in completely gutless fashion and did not show up in Game 4. In a game they absolutely had to win, they did not show up. And like I illustrated in my column, 3 things. You need your core to score. And if they don't, especially when you're paying them half your salary cap, and when they don't, and I said, valid reasons here. Matthews is sick. Okay, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that.
You can do it. He's gutting it out.
Yeah, he gutted it out for 2 periods in Game 3, and then apparently they would not let him back out on the ice. So he wanted to play. He couldn't play. Fine. William Nylander had migraine. You've had migraines. I know people who've had migraines.
I know people who have them way worse than me, and it's bad.
Yeah, they're
doctor. You keep going to the doctor. You keep changing medicine. It's hard.
They're debilitating. So do I think he wanted to play the first 3 games? Of course he did, but he couldn't, and they missed him. Mitch Marner was out for a month with a high ankle sprain. Comes back. Doesn't look like the same Mitch Marner in this series. He's not, we know his edge work is fantastic. He's a fast player. He doesn't look like he's fast or as fast as he was, and
he had a nice goal in that last game. He did.
Right. But all that everybody's talking about is the bickering and the words back and forth between him and Nylander and Matthews on the bench. Okay.
Right. So that's where I want to go with this. Because
Go ahead.
No. Okay. So, My issue is this. I do think Nylander was right. I don't know if people were really kind of nuancing it the way I was. The way I was nuancing it was, look, Marner has a right to be upset and frustrated. The problem is when you got one guy on the side, Nylander, who's gutting out in the migraines, and you got the other guy on the side who has some sort of illness that is preventing him from playing the entire 3rd period. The 2 of them just looked at him and were just like, this isn't the time. This isn't the time. You don't get to throw a tantrum here right now. You need to actually show up because your other two guys here are doing all we can. And that's the look they gave Marner and it's not because he's not trying. He's just with not coming through. That was his throw his hands up moment, and his teammates weren't buying it. And I don't blame him.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and people can read lips. Apparently CJ, Chris Johnston, said that Nylander was mic'd up for the game.
Yeah. He said it. This isn't juniors, bro.
Right. But no, well, they don't know for sure, Russ.
Oh, wait, I think it matched up. Let's say that.
Right. Right. But what I would like to see, I would love to hear the audio of that, because if that was the case, I mean,
I'll get it for you.
Okay. If it's out there, I mean, I saw it mouthed. I didn't hear it.
Yeah. I don't know if I heard it either.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were people who were reading lips that said that that's what he said, but believe me, remember Morgan Riley got tarred and feathered for a couple days when people thought he said something homophobic. It wasn't anything. And, that's why I hesitate. If I don't hear it, and I'm not going to read lips and say that's what it was, if I hear it, then fine. But I mean, the problem, but okay. I said this in my column, and here's the thing. When you have your core group and they're not at 100%, and I just said, Nylander, Matthews, Marner, all playing at less than 100%. Tavares is a diminished figure from what he was a few years ago, is still effective, scored a goal in the series, but not as effective as he was. You need your supporting cast to play well. And in my column, I gave 3 instances. One, Ryan Reeves has cost them 2 goals in the opening goal in losses in game 1 and game 4. And in these series with Swayman playing as well as he is, you give up the opening goal, you're behind the 8 ball. He gives up the puck out of position on the 2-on-1 on the Beecher goal in game 1. And now he gives away
I'd rather see in there instead of Ryan.
And then Ryan Reeves, probably anybody. But I'm just saying.
Who would the player be?
Noah Gregor.
Okay.
I mean, right now, it's like at least Noah Gregor would do less harm. At least he's a responsible defenseman.
And he has playoff experience.
He has playoff experience. He's got speed. But right now, it's like Ryan Reeves throws a pizza right to JVR, and that's the opening goal, and that killed them. And then they put in TJ Brody because Liljegren reportedly was not 100%, and TJ Brody gets absolutely burned on the 3rd goal. And then the guy who, I'm sorry, even though you can say, well, he's not really to blame, you need a goalie to make a save if you're going to win a series. And Ilya Samsonov, other than the last half of game 2, has been at best average. And they need better than average goaltending. So if I'm Sheldon Keefe, I'm putting Joseph Wall in there in game 5. You have nothing to lose. In my estimation, Ilya Samsonov should have played his last game as a Maple Leaf in game 4. Whether that's the case, I don't know. But if it's me, I don't go back to him, because I think you know what's going to happen if you do. I don't care how much confidence they have in Ilya Samsonov. I think they're playing lip service to that. I think outwardly they say, well, we have confidence in him. And inwardly they're saying, please don't put that guy in the game. But I could be wrong. I'm not in the locker room anymore. I don't
I think you're right. There is no audio, but if you look at the quotes from Nylander and Marner a day later, I believe it.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear it, but apparently,
I don't think you're not going to.
I don't think you're ever going to hear it.
Canada buried that.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't Hockey Night in Canada.
Whoever was doing it.
I think it was ESPN or TNT.
ESPN, yeah, they buried it. I'm sure.
But
I don't know if that's going to clear up anything for them. But all right, so this was my worry and yours, that Treliving went into this season pretty much exactly the way you said it. Hey, we're going to do some work around the edges, and maybe we'll get a little bit lucky, but otherwise can't really do much with this team. Okay, that only works for 1 year, Mike. Right. Next year, he's really got to make up this team differently, or he's going to have a problem with his job. And because I do think they're not going to give him as much rope as they gave Dubas, because Dubas has a way of explaining at least what he wants to do, and at least with a plan to do it.
Yeah.
Living doesn't have any kind of real plan written out, other than I'm going to just look at every 6'3" guy in college and sign them all, which is fine. You might get a few guys. So I just think I look at it and I say, he's got to really do something here in the offseason. And look, maybe if you get Quenneville, he does scare off Marner. I wasn't joking about that. I think, possibility.
Well, we'll deal with that in a second. I want to deal with this, because there is a way to criticize and there's a way not to criticize. Kelly Rudy on the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast, he said, I defended Marner in Game 3. I can't defend him tonight. He was not playing.
He's an honest guy, Kelly Rudy. I want to point that out. He really is.
So, he said, and they showed video examples of, him not being able to sort of tight turn. Now, I only read some of what Bissonnette said. And, first of all, he's supposed to be a member of the media, and he acts like a super fan wearing Leafs garb and stuff like that. It's like it's really disconcerting. It's like, okay, whatever. But this is where I have an issue with broadcasts like Spit and Chicklets and Barstool and all this stuff. The thing that his podcast partner Ryan Whitney put out there, I won't describe it. You can go out there and look and see what it was, but it was it's like, okay, and saying that the Leafs are at the Bruins' mercy, and here's an illustration of it, and it's rather untoward. You're a pig, and you know what? It's like, honestly, you're putting out something there that is sexually explicit. With regarding,
I'm surprised that it held up on Twitter. That's a whole other discussion.
Well, please.
It should have been banned.
Well, I mean,
it's a hate tweet. It is a hate tweet.
It is a hate tweet, but it's from somebody who has no class and no couth. And honestly, it's like, and I don't care. I've never met Ryan Whitney. I don't care if I ever do, but you don't put that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I call Brad Marchand a rat, but you know what? He's a great player, and I wouldn't, it's like, but I don't even think Brad Marchand would be doing doing what is purported to be, So it's like, oh my God, it's like, dude, you can try to be funny without being gross. And what he put out was gross. And, so. But
the thing with Bissonnette is this. Look, I'm all for a guy that gives you a little insight into some stuff, and maybe he did help get Quenneville fired. Okay. All those things are fine. You can have a little fandom on TV. That's okay. But he just goes overboard with it, and to the point where it becomes like boring to watch, because it's just like they're just looking to get a rise out of him about the Leafs and say something stupid. That's really what it boils down to for some ratings. And I'm not around for that. I actually click it off. I mean, if you notice, he doesn't really do that with Gretzky on.
No, I was going to say,
and he has some respect for him.
I would rather listen to, Gretzky's sort of Casper Milquetoast observations of the game. Wayne's not the most exciting guy in the world, but he's Wayne Gretzky. So he carries some gravitas. So having Bissonnette out there, with his pom-poms waving, and it's just like, it's sort of whatever. I mean, it's just, but, Whitney, I wish they would ban you from Twitter, but that tweet was pretty gross. But getting back to and not make the just last 5 minutes being Leaf related here. Something is coming. Something. I mean,
can you be less specific?
Well, no,
You're still talking about the Leafs?
Yes.
Okay.
What I'm saying is
Stephen Sondheim with the song "Something's Coming." Like, I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't know the song, look it up.
Yeah, yes, I'm going through my mental Rolodex. It's like, okay, because Stephen Sondheim is West Side Story, and
I don't know, but yes, we covered it. It's really good. By the way, for the prog rockers out there, Bill Bruford is touring, which I was shocked to see, and he's doing. He is going to do some Yes. He's going to do ELP. He's going to do Crimson.
ELP.
Yeah.
Wait, was he touring in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Really?
He's here June 30th.
I didn't know. Send me the. I'll have to look on his website.
He's on Instagram, like of all places.
Okay. But this is with the Leafs. If they lose, as I expect them to do, maybe not in Game 5 on Tuesday, but they'll lose the series. What is going to happen? Well, I'm not going out on a limb to say I think Sheldon Keefe is toast. If they don't win, and UK is a great supergroup. The first album is phenomenal. It's not going out on a limb to say, he's been there for 5 years. I think you can make a case that the team has tuned him out. There are some people who sort of, I know my buddy Steve Dangle was just like losing his absolutely losing his shit in the third period after they had a power play with about 4 minutes left to go and didn't score. And they had put the 2 power plays out there, and he had the fourth line and the third defensive pairing out there before they pulled the goalie, and Steve was losing his mind. And I'm like, well, he had all the top forwards out there on the power play. He couldn't put them out there again because they were fucking gassed. So,
right.
So, whatever. So, yeah. Right. So you had to buy, now could you put other guys out there? Maybe, but
I've seen it happen before. It's not like Keefe is the only coach ever to do this.
Right. So, I mean, I think he's probably done, but I think it's maybe deserved because he's been there long enough and hasn't been able to get them over the hump. There's a lot of chatter out there that Keith Pelley, the new head of MLS&E, is going to come in, and he's a guy who's a bottom line guy, and 10 years on the job for Brendan Shanahan as the team president. That might be it, even though I think he's got a year or two left in his contract. Right. He's gotten them to a certain point, but there is the perception out there, and I know people will label me as a Kyle Dubas defender, but there is the perception out there that Shanahan is the one who prevented them from breaking up the core group. And we'll never know. Now, if that's the case, that is grounds for firing. Because if Dubas was, and I was at the press conference last year, it sounded to me like Dubas was of the realization that, okay, this is not working. We have to break this up at least partially and make a move. And then he never got the chance because he lost the power struggle with Shanahan. Okay, so if they fire Shanahan, if they fire Keefe, will they clean sweep it and fire Treliving? Probably not. He's only been on the job for a year, but it's not a mistake that all the moves that he made, Russ, were 1-year moves.
No, I know.
Klingberg, Martin Jones, Domi, Bertuzzi.
No, I get it, but that can't happen again.
No, I know, but now he might. What cannot be ignored, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, folks. I've been saying for 5 years they weren't going to win with this core group. I've been saying for 5 years it was unmanageable to have 4 guys making $40 million, that it couldn't work. Now, my assertion was trade the guy who you could trade, Nylander, who had a very movable contract who you get a lot for. Everybody's out there saying, oh, they got to trade Marner. Okay, Marner's got a no-move clause, folks. If he doesn't want to go anywhere, he's not going anywhere. You could say, well, he'll go someplace. I don't know that. Sign and trade, 8-year deal. Does he want to go some other place for 8 years? Or maybe, Zach Hyman went someplace, other place. He didn't have a no-move clause. His contract ran out. Mitch Marner could say, I'm going to stay here for a year. I'm going to score 95 points, and then I'm going to stick it right where. And,
again, he may not want to play for a guy like Quenneville. And I could see Marner all of a sudden with that change. But, again, something has to happen. And I'm not sure Quenneville's the answer. I wouldn't bring him in. I really feel like they need to, like you said, get rid of some of the big names, not Riley, but some of the big names. They need to really try and change the look of this team. They have to change the way it plays. Their mentality is all off. Like, look, we talked about it in private, and I remember when I asked you about Spencer Carberry, why don't the Leafs keep him? You were like, well, he worked with the Caps. I get it all. But when I saw the quote from Carberry saying that I'm not happy that we just made the playoffs, that's a loser mentality.
No,
that mentality doesn't exist with Sheldon Keefe. Maybe it did at the beginning, but it doesn't exist now.
No,
and that's what has to change with the Leafs.
Okay, Russ, I do think it exists with Sheldon Keefe. It's just that he can't say that.
Especially Carberry did. Why can't he say it? Of course he can say it.
Because it's Toronto, and
stop. You can say whatever you want, especially if you're on the way out.
Shit. I'm sorry. No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
No, you can't, Russ. It comes back to bite you in Toronto. You cannot say that stuff.
He's getting fired anyhow. What's the difference?
Well, he lasted 5 years. If he had said that 2 years in, he would have been fired a lot less than 5 years.
Yes.
Right, you did.
So he can go live on an island somewhere. But the Leafs are no better off now than they were. That's the whole crux of this whole thing is they're no better off now.
I agree with that, but then I think the tragedy here is that they've wasted the bulk, a good chunk of the prime of these players when they were making less than top dollar, and they've gone nowhere. They've spun their wheels.
Yeah, I mean,
so now Matthews is 26.
Yeah, there's still a lot of time for some of these guys, but goaltending is the first thing that needs to get cleaned up. And even if you believe in Wall, you still have to have somebody else there. So they have to go out and get a goalie.
Well, okay, and I'm not creating a rumor here, folks. I'm just putting two and two together, and I'm saying this would make a lot of sense. Markstrom.
Yeah, sure. If they want to pay that.
Now, the thing is, it probably is going to cost them their first-round pick.
Right.
Something like that. And, maybe Calgary would have to retain salary. And there is a resistance, apparently, from Calgary, on Calgary's side, to make deals with Treliving, since Treliving had been there for so long in Calgary. They don't want to be perceived as, like, doing him a favor or anything like that. So
the Leafs can't trade their first-round pick. The whole world needs to see the Leafs pick in the Sphere. Imagine if they had picked Tyler Biggs in the Sphere, and that we had that image of Tyler Biggs up there. We'd be still talking about it today.
Hey, Russ, all I know is that you and I and a couple of the people that we were with at the draft in Nashville were like, who the hell is Easton Cowan?
Yeah.
And now everybody knows who Easton Cowan is.
He was a really good pick, and I didn't watch him enough. I agree.
Yeah, so, I mean – I get the Tyler, but hey, that was, remember, folks, they traded up to get Tyler Biggs. And what did they give up? John Gibson and Ricard Raquel. Not bad. Thanks, Berkey. Anyway, all right. Yes, and I did not give up on my pursuit of the grape tang. Like I said, I bought it and then I got refunded back because they said it was not available to be sent to North America. So if anybody can figure out a way for me to get the grape tang, I will buy it and I will drink it. I'll do a taste test on because I drink the orange tang, and the only other tang that's available in the US is, I think it's like pineapple orange.
Right.
So
all right, there you have it, folks.
So I have the gauntlet is set. I am willing to try. I'll be the official taste tester. So, okay, all right.
It has to be sealed. Mike's not gonna.
No. I mean, tell me a way for me to buy it. I'll buy it. I'm not going to. My luck. Somebody will friggin' put anthrax in the tang, and
right. We don't want anybody in the chat room poisoning Mike. That's not the point here.
So, all right. So for the departed Pete Tessier, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.